weight either proportional to or greater than their numerical composition in the country. On the other hand, you have the ethnic Roma, who comprise anywhere from 530,000 Romanians, according to the census, to 2.2 million Romanians, which is a number perhaps more widely accepted, at least by the NGO community and by several of the members of the foreign embassy community here. So if you accept the higher number, that represents actually the largest ethnic minority in Romania at 10%. The puzzle is why the ethnic Hungarians have been able to exercise their political influence, whereas you have anywhere from 500,000 to 2 million people with one member of parliament in this country. And so the question would be, what happened in those early years to lead Romania on this path? If indeed something happened during these early years. Of course, we've heard anecdotal but widespread reports that the Roma cell or the main political parties buy Roma votes, and that as a result, the Roma ethnic group hasn't been able to organize itself. But is that attributable to any conditions during those early years in which the system began to take root, or did something happen later on? Thank you.
Okay, we'll take this question. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be the last one because well, I want to give another like 5 or 7 minutes to the speakers to respond.
First of all, I want to join Carlos and congratulating you for the very interesting presentations. I have just one question now to Professor Blasciano. One of the main changes was the quantitative growth of the university system in Romania in the 90s and continuing also after 2000 to a certain extent. This was partially catching up from a very bad situation before '89. It was also joining a trend towards mass universities, which is global. And it was not a move which was limited to Romania. Our colleagues from Poland or from other countries can tell volumes about this massification of universities. At the same time, it was a shift to, or a stress to quantity, and there were chronic problems of quality assurance. And here I would ask you, was this basically the fault of the early 90s, or the fault and the legacy, it's the legacy more of later periods of transition? What is your assessment?
Should we maintain the order of the presentations in terms of answers? I think we should do that. We'll start with Tom, and then we'll go on and then move to the next.
All right. I'll just make 2 points in response to the interventions from the floor. I mean, I think the comparison between the movement for rights and freedoms in Bulgaria, the name of the Turkish party, and the RMDS within it is a very apt one. I think that, I think there has been an emphasis over the last 20 years in the belief that if ethnic minorities get involved in mainstream politics, that they will enrich and purify the process. I mean, I think increasingly we have seen that the fashionable doctrine of multiculturalism, the idea that all sorts of entitlements should go to organised minorities doesn't necessarily bring us to a sort of qualitatively better form of democracy. That where groups manage to carve out a degree of autonomy, they will often wish to behave in quite often an exploitative manner, and they will just imitate the clientelistic practices that may already exist in the wider political arena. Second point concerning the Roma, I mean, I don't see any mystery at all in why Roma are politically marginalised. I would argue it's not to do with any degree of hostility on the part of the mainstream society. I mean, the Roma are organised in very many other areas. In the black economy, the Roma, elements of the Roma are a vital force. And if you go around the markets of Bucharest and you want to find out, who was the power here, or in terms of real estate in some parts of the city, it's clear that Roma are very energetic. They have lots of initiatives that are future orientated. I think the profile of the Roma community is the fact that they are very fragmented, and they wish to identify with powerful people in the post society that can offer them something. Means that we will probably never see, in my lifetime anyway, any kind of organised Roma movement. I mean, they have no mission in the way that Islamic groups have a mission, that they want some kind of global entity. They have no mission like the Ude Mere, they want some kind of territorial entity. Whether that's positive or negative, it's up to others to decide.
Okay, now the comparison with the movement for rights and freedoms. The situation is slightly different in the sense that whereas the movement for rights and freedoms is actually an ethnic party, which is not an ethnic party, considering that the Bulgarian constitution bans the very existence of religious and ethnic parties, whereas UDMR, it's an umbrella organization. Actually, it contains something like 16 various groups, unions, youth organizations, so on and so forth. So the very inception of these two movements, although it was made in approximately the same time, led to a different development throughout the years. If we also think of the leadership of these two movements, in Bulgaria we have Ahmed Dogan, who's a very skilled, versatile politician who was proved to be an officer, collaborator of the former communist secret service in Bulgaria. Whereas the leader of the Hungarian unions in Romania, Marco Bello, before that was a French and Hungarian teacher somewhere in Târgu-Mureș, and he was better known as a poet rather than as a dissident or a politician. So the very manner in which these organizations were led afterwards and organized, I think, also explains the different paths. This does not mean that in the case of the Hungarian unions in Romania, we don't have as top members some of the most successful businessmen, I would say not even in Romania, but across Europe, that gathered huge amounts of wealth. As I said, the beginning was different, and this led to a slightly different path. And also looking at the representatives in the parliament, if you look at the training of the Turkish and Bulgarian MPs in the National Assembly of Bulgaria, for instance, most of them declare that their second language is not English, as you would expect nowadays, but for instance Russian. So most of them, at least until 2005, if I remember exactly, were rather older people trained in Bulgaria or in Russia. The situation changing after 2005. Whereas in Romania, they are average age people speaking foreign languages, etc., traveling extensively. So, and having a constant relationship with Hungary, which even under the socialist times was rather liberal compared with the military regime in Turkey. Say to maybe the Turkish politicians were looking towards. Now, concerning Dragoș's remark regarding the public discourse, I would say that not only that you're perfectly right, it's also changed the structure of the public space in Romania. Public space in the philosophical sense of Habermas, but also the public space in the sense that lawyers and architects give it with it. It was a rediscovery of how to exchange and rationalize ideas, and the university square that I remember, you remember, was the very beginning. And what was, the last question regarding the comparison with the Roma, Professor Gallagher has already answered to that. I would also add to this the fact that, for instance, the leaders of the Roma community who leave the community, go get trained either in Romanian higher education institutions, some of them even in the West, more than respectable intellectuals. They're rejected by their community, so it's a vicious circle. They cannot go back to their own families and to their own villages in order to try to build something. I think they even have a word which is not very polite to describe these people. And speaking of counting them, yes, I've also spoke with Roma activists. They could be anything in between 500 and 2 million. Again, it's very difficult to know because they are completely illiterate and they're enormous, they don't have IDs. Yeah, and the very same situation is taking place in Bulgaria. And sometimes, in the case of Bulgaria, as far as I know, the Movement for Rights and Freedoms tries to get this votes of the Roma people, which is not happening in Romania. Moreover, the rejection coming from the majority of the population ranks really, really high in the case of the Roma, as opposed to the social distance towards other ethnic groups that is